Welcome, welcome everyone to the Automation Community Workshop, and we're going to go ahead and discuss CCA how to customize a blueprint. Myself, Joe Cabral, Product Manager, and Sanjay Johar, Senior Software Engineer, will be presenting. So this is actually going to be a more demo-focused presentation this go-round. So what are we going to discuss here? And I'm only taking a small subset of what we're going to discuss here. This is really exciting. We're going to discuss how to customize a blueprint through the following Service Desk Blueprint example. We're going to look at discovery verification rules for Service Desk Blueprint to work with for 12.9 version or whatever version that we want to really focus on. We want to take a look at that. What happens if it's not the right version? Well, that's a good question. We also want to take a look at configuration file additions and using that file to add new component parameters to get the Tomcat from a Service Desk Blueprint. We also want to look at Registry as a directive to adding component parameters to getting component status for that Service Desk Blueprint. We're also going to look at using the database directive to add component parameters for CCA Service Blueprint to add NDG and BOXI details. So we're going to take a couple of examples. We're going to look at a discovery, look at the configuration, look at the registry, and look at the database. We're going to take this as an example of how we're going to walk through, with my colleague Sanjay, how to go through this process of customizing a blueprint. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Sanjay, and she will take us through the process of demoing where do we go from, how do we customize this blueprint. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Sanjay. Sanjay, feel free to go ahead and, if you're on mute, please do the *6.
Thanks, Joe. So my name is Sanjay Jayaraju. I'm a Senior Software Engineer with CCA Technologies. I primarily work with CCA Blueprints. So we are going to be, as part of the demo, talk about how to customize blueprints. I'll be sharing my desktop, and I'll be taking you through the demonstration. So when we talk about customizing blueprints, why we usually want to customize blueprints could be a couple of reasons. So one, the primary reason being the out-of-the-box blueprint does not have any particular configuration detail that the CCA administrator was looking for from the out-of-the-box blueprint. So he could take the out-of-the-box blueprint, customize it, and add how to get that information to the blueprint. The other reason being the out-of-the-box blueprint for that particular software in this, could be for an older version of the software, and they're having releases later, and the CCA administrators want to check if this out-of-the-box blueprint for the older version could be customized and used for the latest version. So we take a couple of examples here. We'll go ahead first with the CA Unicenter Service Desk Blueprint, which was for 11.2 version. So this blueprint was for an older version of CA Service Desk, and we currently have CA Service Desk version 12.8, 12.9. So I'll be taking you through the customization for this blueprint for version 12.7. I have an environment, CA Service Desk 12.7 environment, and I'll be taking you through how to customize this blueprint, the out-of-the-box blueprint for that environment. So the first thing we do here is we have to take a look at what is already available as part of the blueprint and take a look at the new software version and what changes visibly we could see while analyzing each and every part of the blueprint. Primarily, in most cases, out-of-the-box blueprint works fine. The only changes usually are required are in the areas of the discovery methods and the discovery verification rule. There could be changes in the file system in the latest version, or there could have been checks in the out-of-the-box blueprint that restricts it for discovery for a particular version. So we'll be looking at how we can modify this. So in this case, as we see here, in the discovery methods, the CA Unicenter Service Desk blueprint doesn't have a file indicator, whereas it has a registry indicator. So this particular blueprint looks for the 11.2 and the Unicenter Service Desk keys in the registry of the particular machine. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the environment of the 12.7 version CA Service Desk I have. So we can cross-verify if this satisfies in this case. So we are looking at the registry of a CA Service Desk 12.7 environment. As you can see here, HKey local machine software, was 6432 nodes, computer associates, and CA Service Desk is here. So we don't really see the keys which was already mentioned in the blueprint, which is 11.2 and Unicenter Service Desk. These seems to be specific to the version 11.2. So this has to be definitely changed for this blueprint to work for the latest version. So how are we going to make the change is, as we can see from here, it's very clear that the CA Service Desk is the root of the registry details for CA Service Desk application. So we would want to be managing, using this particular information as an indicator here. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change here. This 11.2 key becomes redundant. Excuse me. Another very important thing is when we make a customization, we should be making a copy of the out-of-the-box blueprint and making the changes there. So I'm going to go ahead and make a copy and make the changes here. So the 11.2 key is redundant, so I'm going to be deleting that. And this key doesn't seem to be relevant anymore, so I'm going to be changing this to CA Service Desk. Also, the other key, so we are going to be looking for the CA Service Desk registry key in a particular server, and if it exists, then the CA Service Desk software or application is running on that server. So the another thing here is the search from here is HKey local machine software computer associates, but we saw in the environment that it was HKey local machine software was 6432 node computer associates and CA Service Desk. So there's a slight change here. So we should be making changes that will accommodate this. So I'm going to be removing the computer associates because there's a was 6432 node which comes in between. So we are going to be searching from HKey local machine software for a depth of 10, which could be lesser because we saw that within a 2 to 3 depth CA Service Desk key was present. So I'm going to be making it 5. Making it lesser is going to help in the performance of the discovery, so that is why I'm reducing it here. If in an environment, if in any of the environments that we are going to be discovering this blueprint, there is a possibility that this CA Service Desk key could be much further down, and we should be increasing this. But from what I'm looking at, I'm pretty sure this is going to be within the depth of 5, so I'm making it 5 here. And here I had already made the change as a CA Service Desk key. And another thing that we see here is, here in the previous case, the depth from root was 1 because the root for them was at the computer associates registry key. But for us, in our case, all the registry details, registry configuration details for CA Services 12.7 seems to be available under CA Service Desk as its child, as its children, and nothing about that. So I'm going to be making this as 0, which means that the CA Service Desk registry key, wherever it is found, that particular key will be made as the registry root. So the depth from root for this CA Service Desk key is 0, which effectively means CA Service Desk will be the registry root. So this is one thing that we have changed. The other thing, the other part which usually contributes to the discovery of a component is discovery verification rules. So we want to be making sure that after discovery, our component should not be discarded because none of these rules satisfy. So I'm going to be taking a look at whether this still holds good. So the check for primary configuration file existence seems to check for config.properties file, which is under the file system, the CA Service Desk installation file system, and under which there's a site folder, and the config.properties file should be present under there. So that is what this rule is checking. So we'll cross-verify if that still holds good. So this seems to be the CA Service Desk installation folder, and there's a site folder under which there is config.properties file. So this will still hold good for us. Same is the case, there is another check which is checking for nx.env file, which is a secondary configuration file, which seems to be directly under the CA Service Desk file system, installation file system. So I'm going to be checking that as well here. Yes, there is an nx.env file here present. So this will again still hold good. The third one is we are going to be looking for CA Service Desk server in this registry path. If there is this registry path has a value installed, if it matches the regular expression INSTALLED. So this is a regular expression to accommodate both upper and lowercase characters. So I'm going to be going and checking in this particular registry path if we have installed value present. So we have CA Service Desk. CA Service Desk was our registry root, and we saw that in the path there was $registry root / CA Service Desk / server. But here it will be wrong, because this will be CA Service Desk / CA Service Desk / server. So this CA Service Desk here becomes redundant, which was fine for the previous out-of-the-box blueprint and the previous version, but here this has to be changed because now our registry root has changed and we have fixed it to CA Service Desk. So I'm going to be removing this, and we are going to be checking for CA Service Desk server registry key here and see if there is installed available there. So there's CA Service Desk and there is server which is installed. So this particular verification rule will also pass in our 12.7 CA Service Desk case, and we can retain this rule as well. Once you make a change, please don't forget to make a save here, otherwise you're going to lose it, which is what happened now. I'm repeating it again here. So this is fine. Now coming to the fourth verification rule, which is a version check. So here we are checking if $version is matching 11.2. So what is $version here? This is again here also we saw there is a registry root. So what is bracket some string or some name and close bracket? What does this hold in the blueprint world? This means that the registry root or the version is a component parameter. So here we can see that version is a component parameter. However, we are not seeing registry root mentioned anywhere here. The reason why registry root is not here is because this has by default been fixed by when we defined the registry indicator and we define the depth from root. So when we set the depth from root is 0 here, automatically the $registry root component parameter is assigned in the case of CCA blueprints, which will be resolved during discovery based on what we have mentioned here. So that is the reason why we don't see explicitly registry root in the component parameters. So the registry root component parameter and the root component parameters are the special component parameters which automatically gets a value or gets resolved depending on what we define in the file indicator and registry indicator section. So since we have used we have already defined a registry indicator, the registry root has been automatically assigned, so we don't have to be assigning it here. Whereas in the case of version, we go ahead and see how version information is fetched. So version seems to be again a combination of major version and minor version. So $major version $minor version. So we look for major version and minor version here. So we see them present and the component parameters, and we see that the major version has been bought by doing a registry match for this particular registry path. So there is a major version registry value which is under this registry path, the registry root and CA service desk. And whatever the major version value is, that will be the value assigned to this major version component parameter after discovery. Again, here we see there is a discrepancy. So this again, this was fine in the previous case, but we need to be eliminating in all the cases where there is a $registry root CA service desk / because our registry root has currently changed. So I'm making that change here as well. Same thing holds good for the minor version, which again is a minor version registry value. So I'm removing this. So in effect, after discovery, these two will be resolved to get the values which are present here. $registry root, major version is 12 and minor version is 7. So that's what we will be getting after discovery. So these two are combined together in the version component parameters in this format. So this particular version, after it is getting resolved, we are using it in a discovery verification rule. So for this to work, if we are using any of the variable substitution feature in any of the discovery verification rules, we will have to select the stages late. Which if it is early, then all the information that has to be provided to the verification rule should be directly available in this particular page, and it should not make any references to any component parameters or variables in other parts of the blueprint from the component parameter section. So because we are making that reference, we'll have to select late here, and this holds good in this case. So the only change that we have to make here is now the version check should be for 12.7 version and not 11.2 as in the previous case. So we have made changes to the discovery methods, discovery verification rules, the component parameters which have been referenced in the discovery verification rule. We have made changes to them as well. That is the version parameter. So now, if we try doing a test discovery, this particular blueprint, the custom blueprint, should work and discover the latest CA Service Desk application. Before we go ahead, there's one thing that we have to again make sure if things are going to be working. So the registry root was all fine, and whatever is managed under registry or whatever references which has been made to registry has been now made fine by making all the changes which we did above. But what happens to the file system? As part of the blueprint, we also manage files. So the file, like in the case of registry, there is a registry root. For the file system, we will have to specify a root parameter. So the root parameter corresponds to the file system root. Since we had used a registry indicator, the root parameter will not be directly resolved. This would have been resolved only if we use a file indicator. So it happens that we'll have to explicitly provide a way for this root parameter to be populated after discovery. So that definition is what we see here. Here we see that again the root file system root is got from the registry registry value install path. We can show that here. So we have the registry root and the install path is the file system path. So this particular information is got from that value. Like in the previous cases, this has to be modified because our registry root has changed. So now all the information which are required for discovery has been modified. The registry root is perfect, the file system root is perfect, the discovery methods and discovery verification rules have been modified accordingly. So this particular custom blueprint should now should work for 12.7 service desk. Before going ahead for test discovery, we will need a particular server on which we can try the test discovery. So I'm going to be adding a server on which I have 12.7 service desk installed. So this is a Windows box, and I'm setting the state of the server added as managed. Unless I make it managed, I can't do discovery on this server or do test discovery. And the access profile, I'm assigning it as manual agent. This server already has CCA agent installed with the default port 8063. So the access profile manual agent is a default access profile which comes out of the box, which works for agents, which works for servers which has agent with 8063 port installed. So before we do test discovery, we have to make sure we have a server on which we can do the test and assign a appropriate access profile where through which we can access the server for discovery. So now I'm going to be doing the test discovery on this server. So the server is selected here, running test discovery. This will take a minute. So now we see that the current activity is test discovery in progress. It's important for us to make change when we do a customization to a blueprint. We do the changes to the blueprint step by step and test it one by one, so that we don't overwhelm ourselves with too many changes, and it will be difficult for us to find where the which change didn't work or which worked. So that's what we are following now. We made the changes to only the discovery part, the discovery methods, the discovery verification rule, and any references to component parameters in the discovery verification rule. So we have made the changes only to that, and now we are doing the test discovery. So the test discovery has worked, and we have a component which has been discovered, copy of CA Unicenter Service Test 12.7, where we were able to get almost all the information which had been assigned as part of the out-of-the-box blueprint seem to work for even the latest version. The only changes so far we have made is to make to the discovery indicator and the discovery verification rule, and no changes to any other the configuration files or the other component parameters, but still they seem to work fine in this case. We'll go ahead and see what else, if everything is working fine, or if something else is missing. So here we see that the remote server, web server, and the restricted username component parameters don't have any discovered value. The rest of the component parameters have proper value populated, but these three seem to be the discovery didn't seem to populate any value in these component parameters. So let's go ahead and check why this could have happened. So the subcomponents installation status remote server component parameter, we'll go and look at the blueprint. So this is the parameter corresponding to that. So here we see, we clearly see the mistake which has caused this. Even this particular component parameter seems to be affected by the change in the registry root, and we had not made the correction, so this didn't work. So we are making the changes here. Now these two component parameters, the remote server and web server, should successfully get the values after discovery. The third one, which was not working, was the restricted username parameter. So how the restricted username parameter seems to get the information is from the configuration file config.properties, which is present at the file system root site folder, and in that particular file we are looking for this parameter. So I'm going to be going ahead and searching, then check for this parameter in that file. Under the file system root site config.properties. So this parameter is not present in this environment, in the CA service test 12.7 environment, which has this config.properties file. There is no accounts.restricted.username. This could be either because this parameter is discontinued in the latest versions, or could be because this environment doesn't have a value, a valid value for this parameter, and hence there is no entry of that here. So that's what we see here. So we can do further research to see if this was discontinued. If not, then our discovery seems to work fine. It's just that in our environment, this particular parameter didn't have any value. So the discovery seems to give an empty value after discovery. Now we made changes to the component parameters. We can again once more check the test discovery for this. So I closed the previous test discovery result. Now we'll try again the test discovery. It's going to take a minute. Test discovery is in progress. So now we have made changes to the component parameters which didn't get get populated with a appropriate configuration detail after discovery. Now we have made the changes and it should work fine. So this seems to be successful now. Whatever changes we had done seems to work fine now. Now let's go ahead and look at what are the managed files? There seems to be a lot of files being managed under the CA Service Desk Manager, a lot of files and folders. It could be this managing this many files could be a load on a database, or if it is not required, we should try to minimize the number of files that get managed. The managed files, a particular file has to be managed for it to be further parsed as part of configuration file. So we'll just make sure that any configuration file is managed as part of the managed files and other important folders, but not everything like in this case. So we'll go ahead and change that. We are trying to reduce the number of files and folders managed under CA Service Desk because we don't want to be managing logs and documents. I'm going to be adding specific folders and files that we are interested in. So this is the browse functionality that we are looking at. So now we are browsing the server and browsing the file system. Program files x86 CA Service Desk. Service Desk Manager. So this is the particular file system root that we are interested in. So I'm setting it as the root and minimizing the search. So now we see only the files under this particular file path under Service Desk Manager. So I'll be adding, when we look at it, the bin folder seems to be important because we probably want to be looking if there is any patch applied, any files get changed. So the bin, anything under the bin folder seems to be important. So I'm going to be adding it as a managed file. The doc is not important. The CMDB is important. And I'm just picking a couple of folders which sound important to the administrator. So this could vary depending on the case. In this case, we are picking these folders. So this site folder seems to have all the configuration files that we are interested in. So we are going to be adding that as well. It's important that we add that. If we don't do that, then configuration files which are under this will not be parsed, will not be managed or parsed. So we should be adding that. And the nx.env, which is another configuration file that we want to be adding later. So I've reduced the number of folders and files that we want to be managing as part of this custom blueprint. And we see under each of these, the manager seems to be 10. We could reduce it. We can make it 7. If there are folders and folders recursively under these, we only go till the depth of 7 and manage it. So when I say bin folder, anything under the bin folder, files, folders, children of those folders, everything is going to be managed as part of this. Coming to the registry management, so here we see that the registry root, like we already discussed, was supposed to be CA Service Desk, and we see CA Service Desk and Unicenter Service Desk present here. This doesn't seem to add up. This CA Service Desk and Unicenter Service Desk folders were added for the old blueprint, which supported 11.2. We need to be making changes here. I'm going to be deleting this. So we manage everything under the registry root since there is nothing, not many registry keys or values, and we are not going to get a huge performance improvement by minimizing here because we have hardly a handful of registry keys and values. So we could as well be managing everything. So we have the registry root, and of course the depth is need not be 10 because we saw that it was around 3, and I said 3. So these changes we are making here, and once we've made the changes to the managed files, what we want to be looking at is the files, the configuration files. So currently, these configuration files are already managed as part of the out-of-the-box blueprint. So config.property, which is an important primary configuration file, is already, excuse me, I'll have to be restarting it, just give me a minute. Sorry about that. So here we were making the changes to the configuration, to the custom blueprint, the configuration section. So these configuration files have already been there, and this is a primary configuration file which is already being managed and parsed. Whereas the secondary configuration file nx.env is not currently managed as part of the file parsing. Now, why we are interested in nx.env is this particular configuration file seems to have a couple of information regarding the which I'm particularly interested in as a CCA administrator. There seems to be a lot of configuration details here. What I'm looking for is the Tomcat installation directory. So the Tomcat installation directory is specified as part of this configuration file, and I'm interested in getting this particular configuration differentiated in the component parameter. To do this, I'm first going to be adding this nx.env configuration file to the file parsing, and later once we are able to successfully parse this, I'm going to be getting this particular parameter for Tomcat installation directory in the component parameter. I'll show you that. So we could use browse here as well, or we could directly browse to the particular file. We'll be browsing to the particular file that we want to be adding as part of the file parsing, or we could directly, if we know the file, we could directly add it as well. In this case, I'm going to be directly adding. So this is, whatever we are giving here is a regular expression. Now I could directly add nx.env. This might work, this might work, or this might not work depending on the case. Here we see that there is nx.env.last. This is another file which seems to be a backup file for this. So if I just leave it like this, it's going to be parsing both nx.env and nx.env.last. But I don't want the backup file to be managed. So I'm providing a proper regular expression match for the file name, because I'm only interested in nx.env and not nx.env.last. So I've added the configuration file, and now it says we have to either add a structure class or a parser. A structure class will be required if we want to be adding further meta information to this configuration file, but in this case I'm not interested in doing that. So I'm going to be directly adding a parser. Now, before assigning the parser, we need to understand what is the syntax or what is the format of this file, so that it can help us choose the right parser which comes out of the box in CCA. So this seems to be a name-value pair kind of a file. So the configuration information seems to have A equal to B format. So I'll go ahead and look in the parser section. What are the parsers which could help us? So there's a colon name value configuration parser which passes colon separated name value files, but here it is not colon separated. So I'm looking at a generic name value configuration. So this seems to work for name value hash commented configuration file parser. So this particular file has a name value format and it has hash commenting. So this should work, I believe. We'll go ahead and assign that and see how that goes. So I'm assigning the generic name value configuration to this configuration file, and now we can go back and do a test discovery and check if this worked. So we'll be checking now the changes we have made to the management section and the configuration file section. In the manage section, we reduce the number of files and folders that we are interested in. We don't want to be getting all the folders in files and getting the meta information of that. So we have reduced that. We'll see how that goes during the test discovery. Excuse me. This again going to be taking a minute. Please wait for that. Excuse me. The test discovery is in progress. Successful. We've got the test discovered component. We made changes to the managed file section. Now we are getting only the folders and files we have explicitly mentioned. However, we get all the children, all the child folders, the subfolders, and the files, but at this root level, whatever we had defined, only those folders we are getting and the file. So we made sure that the nx.anv file was managed so that we could create a configuration file, nx.anv. We assigned a parser, generic name value parser. Now we test whether this parser worked or not. What we see here, how do we test if the parsing happened or not? We should be seeing name value kind of, if this is the icon, the x equal to y icon, then we ought to be seeing an a equal to b format separated by colon. And the a, which is before the colon, will be the name of the parameters. And here we see that it is exclamation mark. So there's something has gone wrong here. So the parser that we selected doesn't seem to work fine. We were expecting the at nx_eiam_hostname to be the parameter name, and the value must have been the what is there to the right of the equal to sign, but that is not the case here. So why this has occurred is because the nx.anv file is not just a file which has hash as comments, but it also seems to have exclamatory mark as so. This is an example. You see that there's an exclamatory mark and there is a configuration parameter file. So this also seems to be a commenting out kind of a function. disable options using an exclamatory mark, use the hash sign as the command character. So the parser that we select should work for both these rules in the format. We go back and check the list of parsers again, and we see that there is a CA configuration parser which has to be used for property files having hash and exclamation as comments. So this seems to be the appropriate one and not the generic name value configuration, which only supports the hash commented parser, hash commented configuration files. So we will make that change here. We will be assigning the CA configuration parser to this file. And run test discovery again. Noticeably, the test discovery was a little quicker the last time when we did test discovery, because we had focused the managed folders to folders only that we were interested in. So previously it used to take around a minute, now it takes less than half a minute. So this has to be done only when we are expecting performance improvement and we know that we are managing and information that we are not interested in. So we could do that. So the nx.env file now seems to be parsed fine. In this case, we have the parameters at Catalina base. So this is what we were expecting. We have the parameter separated by a colon in the name value format. This has worked as well. Now the next thing that we wanted to do after adding this configuration file was reference a couple of information from that configuration file in the component parameter. Now I'm interested in adding some dependency related, some dependency components like Tomcat or JRE. I'm interested in knowing the configuration information, in this case the installation directory of those components. So I'm going to be creating a component parameter for that. JRE installation part. I'm creating a folder. I'm going to be adding this component parameter under a folder so that it looks grouped and clear for us to reference it again. So this information is available as part of a file which we have already parsed in the configuration. So I'm selecting configuration as a directive type. The configuration directive type can be used for getting information from the file which is already being parsed as part of CCA blueprint. So here the file was nx.env. I have to be providing a path, an absolute path, but in this case, this file is directly available under the root, which will be the default path. I'm not specifying it here. If it was config.properties file, if it was a different file, so it was config.properties, then this particular file was available under site. So we'll have to be providing something like that. But in this case, we don't have to be doing that because this configuration file is directly available under root. And the parameter that we are looking for is so this is the JRE install directory. So this is what we are looking for. I'm going to be adding that there. So below, beneath that, there's nx Tomcat install directory as well. I'll be creating another parameter for that. So In the configuration file nx.env, we are going to be looking for the parameter nx gre install directory. So that's how we are going to get the gre installation path. So now this component parameter is added and it's grouped under the folder dependency components. I'll add one more to this, which is the Tomcat installation path. So these are information that as a CCA administrator I could be interested in, which is not already there as part of the out-of-the-box blueprint. So that is why we are trying to add this information. It could be any other configuration information. We're just taking an example here that we are interested in the GRE installation and Tomcat installation paths. So now this is the case for parameters that we wanted to get from nx.env. What about the config.properties? So config.properties seems to have a lot of configuration information which has already been used to get a multitude of information in the blueprint and already. So we see that the database here import or the database name is fetched from the config.properties. Now, as part of the Tomcat installation path, we were able to get that. What if I'm interested in the port, Tomcat port? So all the Tomcat information available here doesn't seem to have anything about the port. So maybe we can give it, maybe we can check the other configuration file. It could have something. It might have the information that we are looking for. Now I'm looking for the Tomcat port configuration detail. So there's web local Tomcat URL, web Tomcat URL. Okay. So yeah, so we just hit what we were looking for, the web Tomcat port. So this seems to be the parameter in config.properties, which we can get in the parameter by doing this. Tomcat port, I'm creating a new parameter, which is again under the dependency component details. Giving the path, and we are good to go. So we've added some new configuration information that we are interested in by creating a couple of component parameter variables. We'll test the same now if this works. Test discovery is in progress. It's going to take less than a minute now. We have it here already. So the new component parameters that we added, the GRE installation path and Tomcat port are here. The Tomcat installation path is not available. Okay, so that is not under dependency component parameters. So where is it? So it's here. So we have successfully, the discovery is able to get all this information after we have defined as per what we had defined in the blueprint. So these are some of the customizations that we did to the Unicenter Service Desk blueprint to work for 12.7. We made changes for it to work for the new version by making modifications to the discovery methods, discovery verification rules, some of the parameters that were referenced in the discovery verification rules. Then we tried reducing the number of files that the blueprint manages, since it seemed to manage a lot of unnecessary information that I'm not interested in. So we focused that. Then we added a new configuration file and assigned the appropriate parser for it. Then we were able to use that to get some of the configuration information that like the Tomcat installation path and Tomcat port, which as a CCA as an administrator, I was looking forward to in the blueprint. So these are some of the customizations that we have made in the Unicenter Service Desk blueprint. Now this blueprint, we can save it and we can rename it to the custom new version. The blueprint version could be made different to keep track of the changes that we have made, or we could name it accordingly so that this is unique from the already existing out-of-the-box blueprint. So here I am going to be making a CCA Service Desk 12.7.star blueprint. So this will work for any of the 12.7 CCA Service Desk environments that I have, and this is as good as an out-of-the-box blueprint for 12.7 in my case. Now, we take another example of the CCA Server blueprint. We take this example because we want to be showing how any new configuration information that we require. There are multiple ways to get that. We already saw how we could get that from a configuration file or a registry. Now, as part of the CCA Server's blueprint, we will be looking as to how we can leverage databases and possibly even any command or scripts. So, I make a copy of the CCA Server blueprint to customize it. So, the CCA Server blueprint seems to be a universal blueprint. It seems to work for all. It has been defined for all the versions. So we most likely don't have to be making any changes to discovery methods and discovery verification rules, because this seems to work for all the versions. Now, the only couple of information that probably we are interested in is the CCA Server interfaces with a couple of products, like it uses NDG for doing network discovery, it uses BOXI for reporting, CA Business Intelligence, which is BOXI Server for business intelligence, and it uses EEM, which is Embedded Entitlement Manager for the authentication and authorization capabilities. So, while installation, we could see that these components that it integrates with, they could be on different servers. It is not a necessity that where the CCA server resides, all these other components have to be installed. It is not like that. So probably as an administrator, I'll be interested in knowing what a particular CCA server is integrating with, where that particular, where the NDG or in our case the BOXI or the EEM is installed. So that particular information is not directly available out of the CCA server's out of the box blueprint, and we'll try to be adding that to this blueprint now. For this, with respect to the CCA server, most of the configuration information are available either through the configuration file or from the administrator perspective. Most of the operations that we do is from the administration UI here. So we make changes to properties here. We make changes to all the operations that we do is through the user interface. So there is no direct utility or command always to get whatever we need. In this case, to get this EEM or the BOXI server related information, the only way that after research we could see is through the database. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. So first, I have a CCA Server environment. So this is the CCA Server's backend database. So all the configuration information for that CCA Server is stored here. So as you can see here, by running this query on the CCA Server database, I'm able to get the BOXI server details. So I'm going to be using and running this query is going to give me the EM server details. So I'm going to be using these queries directly to create component parameters here. Sorry. So I'm going to create a new component parameter called EM host or EM server. EM server that CCA uses. And how we are going to do it is using database. So I do a database query selection here in the directive type. So it's on the database server database, which is managed. I'll be showing that in a minute. So the query is going to be a select query, and the query is this. The column that we are looking for is the value column here. We are selecting value from ACM proc table, so I'm adding the column value here, and this is good enough to get us the information that we require. So this is all we have to define in the component parameter to use the database query to get any configuration information that we want. Now, similarly, I'm going to be doing for the BOXI server as well. So I have defined two new component parameters which uses database queries to get the EM server and the BOXI server information for the CCA server. So we can try and see if this works by doing a test discovery. Now, when we defined this, we saw that the database was a server database here. So what is this? We have something called data management and management. Apart from the file and the registry management that we do, there's data management. So here we can add any database that we want to be managing. So the application that we write the blueprint for could be having, could most likely be using a database. So if we want to get any configuration information from the database, we should be using this section. So we should first define a managed database, and we should be able to provide the access specification, how we talk to this database. We should be giving the database name, user, password, and all these, so that CCA Server can make a connection to that database and get the configuration information. So here we see all these are variable substitution references: database name, database user, database server. So all these are referenced to component parameters available here, which further has been fetched from other component parameters. So eventually all these seems to come from the configuration files. The CCA property seems to have all this information. So the database name references BBB, which is another component parameter. So here we run, we make a lot of decisions by writing a script. The script uses all these A_database context, A_database name, A_database instance parameter. It outputs that and parses that. So this is, we use script here because we can do some manipulating around with what we have already got. So from the component, from the configuration file, we could get the information. But if, let's say, we wanted to add any intelligence further to that, like if it was Oracle, I want to do something with the data I got. So that is what they are doing here. So they are adding some intelligence here so that they could get the exact information for Oracle, or depending on Oracle or SQL database. So that particular logic has gone into all these component parameters are temporary component parameters which don't get shown. So we have the hide elements visibility for this. So these are like temporary component parameters which has helped us process and get what we want later, which is the database name, password, port, server, and all these information, which in turn is used by the server database for access. So we need to be, if in this case we had to be doing all this for CCA Server, but in some other case probably we could directly get this information and we directly make a reference to that. So it varies on case-to-case basis. Now, this is just some background that I wanted to give on how we add the database, why we saw the database server, and how we could, by just providing the query, how we could make a connection to that. We had to be providing the connection details in the data management section. So we'll run the, so now we could run the test discovery to test these changes, but the problem with that in this case is for any database query, especially in case where the customer has to be providing, the user has to be providing some input. We can't use test discovery directly. Here we see that the database password is of user input. So when I run test discovery, I can't directly provide the user input information there. So we will be going ahead and doing a proper discovery with this blueprint to see how this goes. So there's copy. This is a blueprint that I've created, copy of CCA Server. I'll add the server in which already there is a CCA Server available, Oracle ASM W2K. So this is a Windows server, and I'm setting it to managed. And this already has an agent with 8063 port, so I'm assigning the access profile as manual agent. The one thing which I have to be doing now is, since I'm doing a direct discovery, I have to be assigning an appropriate management profile. So management profile is the way that we provide the blueprints, which blueprints has to be discovered on a particular server. So in our case, we are trying to test the CCA Server blueprint, the copy of CCA Server custom blueprint that we created. So I'm adding that blueprint here. But it has to be part of the discover and manage. And I'm in the discovery options, I'm removing all these. So these are the hardware, information network, storage, and server properties. These are some of the default information that we get for any server. So this will take more time for discovery, since we are just trying to test the custom blueprint. I'm not interested in getting the hardware, network, storage information. I'm unchecking those. So we have successfully created a management profile with the custom blueprint, and I'm assigning that management profile here to this server. And I'm going to run discovery. First, I see that this server is accessible by doing a test server. So this server is pingable and it is accessible. Now I go to management actions and do run discovery. So this is going to do discovery on Oracle ASM W2K server and the discovery is going to be for the management profile CCA, which has a selection of blueprints, in this case only our custom blueprint. So effectively we are discovering only the custom blueprint on this server. It's going to take a couple of minutes. So discovery is done and we have a component discovered for the custom blueprint that we created. So the custom blueprint that we created, we added the BOXI server and EM server. So we see that this information is not fetched. This is because this is a database query and it requires user input for the password. After we provide this in the user input section, we come back here and we'll have to do a component refresh so that whatever user input that we have provided, the password, is used by the discovery, and there is a refresh of the component done, which effectively does the database connectivity, and it is going to get the information that we had requested as part of the database query. So the component refresh is done, and we see if we have got the information that we requested. Yes, the BOXI server and the EM server parameters are populated as we were expecting. So this is what we saw directly by looking at the table by running these queries, and that we could get as part of the discovery here. And so there's one more thing that I would like to tell is, now as part of the component parameters or in other parts, there's something like something called relationships. We can define relationships to any configuration information that we have got. So this is an ideal example here. So in this case, as an administrator, I was interested in getting the BOXI server and the EM server details because I want to know what is which BOXI server the CCA server uses, and if it changed, that change I want to see. So I would want to have this relationship between the CCA server and BOXI server established. The relationship that we define here is could be exported to CMDB if we are using that integration. So whatever we are populating as part of discovery could be exported to CMDB directly, the components and servers. But if we define relationships, the relationships also go as configuration items. So how do we define the relationship? For this BOXI server, I say that what we after discovery, what I get here for the BOXI server is a host name or an IP address. So what I'm going to interpret whatever is going to come in the BOXI server as a host name or IP address. The relationship key should be set to yes for the relationship to work and get populated. And here in this case, the CCA server uses the BOXI server. So this is the semantic that we can give. We can say uses, hosts, communicates with whichever relationship that we want, relationship semantic that we want, we can define that. So I also know the application that I'm talking to is BOXI. Here it is just a name. So if I just don't provide anything here and just leave, assume that because I gave BOXI server as a component parameter, it is going to interpret whatever is going to come as a BOXI server. It is not the case. We will have to provide explicitly what is the application if we are interested in knowing that the server we get out of the relationship is a BOXI server. So once I define this and do a rediscovery, we can see the relationship get populated. I'm doing the same for EM. So I do the interpret as host name or IP address because we are looking at a server. Relationship key is yes. The CCA server uses the EM server, so I'm selecting uses, and I'm going to say the application is EM server. So I'm going to be deleting this, and because we have made changes to the blueprint, I am going to do a rediscovery and see if the relationship that we have defined is captured as part of discovery.
Sanjay, this is Joe. This would be a great example of how we do. Say we're interested in a server and we're interested in a specific server, but it also has Java, for example. This would be an ideal way to establish that relationship, correct?
So if we are talking about dependencies,
strictly dependencies.
Yeah, yeah. There are two things to this, Joe. So when we talk about a dependent component which comes installed as part of that, we could, if there is a separate blueprint for that component. In this case, in your example, there is a Citrix blueprint and there is a JRE blueprint. Then we could associate that through component grouping. So that is a parent-child relationship, or an I'm getting installed as part of this, or the Citrix is dependent on this particular JRE. So that is something which we can do in that way, or in a way that you are even using by leveraging relationships, we can do that. But the ideal example for relationships here is when we talk about servers which integrate with our other products and don't get installed always. Like in our case, we can have CCA Server exist without a BOXI installation if the customer is not interested in reporting. So these are not exactly part of components. They are not. They are standalone components by themselves. They are two different CA products which talk to each other. So in that case, the relationship definition is ideal.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let you finish up.
So the relationships that we defined. Okay, so I don't see that happening. Yeah. Okay. So again, because we ran rediscovery, we'll have to be providing the database password and do the component refresh. So after this, we will be seeing the relationship. I'll just show you that and we can wrap this up. It's taking a couple of minutes. Yeah, we are done. So the relationships are populated under this particular tab. So we should be looking for the configuration relationships. The communication and virtualization relationship, the communication relationship specifically is populated by network discovery gateway and not by blueprint discovery. So the configuration section is the one we have to look for if we have defined any relationship as part of the blueprint. So we see that the two relationships that we have defined, the BOXI server relationship, where we say that the server Oracle ASM having the application CCA Server uses the BOXI server on the server Oracle ASM W2K. In this example, it so happens that the BOXI server, EM server, and CCA Server are all in the same server Oracle ASM W2K. But this need not be the case. If the BOXI server is in a different machine, we will be getting the server name of that here. So these whatever is listed here could be pushed to CMDB, and we could see this as a configuration item there. That's all from my end. So we discussed how to customize the blueprint to accommodate for any new versions that we want to support. So we talked about the discovery indicators, discovery verification rules, which are the key areas that we might have to modify to do that. And if we are interested in adding any new configuration information, we could add it to, depending on how we get that information, whether it is through a file or database, or it is a single one-line information. Like in this case, the BOXI server is a single value, whereas if I'm looking for a list of servers that is managed by CCA, that is a list, so that could not be defined as part of component parameter. That must have been defined as part of the configuration executables. So we saw all these different examples. I hope this was useful for understanding how to customize a blueprint, and this will be helpful in cases where you might want to do any customizations and add more information to the out-of-the-box, or make the most out of the out-of-the-box blueprints available. Thank you. If you have any questions, I can take it up now.
We'll go ahead and do *6 to go ahead and unmute, and feel free to ask some questions. And if you have a question you just want to have us answer, you can also write that in the chat. But feel free to put *6, and we're glad to answer what we can answer. All right, if there are...
Joe, I'm getting a question privately from Pablo, something about going back to remote execution, but I don't have, Pablo, if you could enter your question in the Q&A panel, then Joe can see it. He wants to know, can I execute a script and save the result in the server?
Is that part, are we able to do that with the remote? I know we can go ahead and run the script, obviously. But,
yes, that is something I wanted to cover, but then the time, it's already 9:50, so maybe we could cover it. I was planning to do it in a different session, but I could give a quick example of that. So I was talking about the list of servers that we want to be getting for CCA. So we have a particular way to fetch this information in CCA, which is using the CCA utility. So by running the CCA utility command, which is a command, or by running a script, which will be the case in some other example, you can get the whatever is the output of that saved here. So in that case, if the output that you are going to be looking for is just a single value, then you should be doing it in the component parameters section. So you try to create a new test remote execution parameter, and you select the remote execution directive, and you type in your the script or the command. If it's a Unix command, Unix script, a shell script, you copy shell. If it's a VB script or a batch script or a PowerShell or whatever it is, so you copy that here, and you can do that. But because if it's a component parameter, it should be a single value. You might have to further narrow it down by taking help from regular expression, or by virtue of writing a script which will output only a single value. That flexibility is there if you're writing a script. So that you can do it in the component parameter section. But if there's a list of information, like in this case servers list, you could write a script here. So this is an example that I had. So I do a remote execution. If you look at this, I have CCA util.bat, which is a command that CCA provides, a command line utility, and if I provide the parameters -task list servers, it's going to give me a list of the servers that is managed as part of CCA server. So these are other parameters, and you see the variable substitutions here because I could get all this information generically. Whenever we use variable substitution in cases when things have to be generic, like the server port, depending on the server that we are executing, we want it to fetch that particular server port. So I'm doing a variable substitution here. So this is an example of a remote execution where I have a command which can provide me a list of servers, and I'll show you the output of that command so you get an idea. Okay. So we are looking at the CCA server. So where I have run this command, the CCA-util.bat-tasklist server. So this provides me this output, which looks like a table format to me. So server ID and server name. So whatever information that you get as part of the script or the command output, you will again have to use a parser when you use a configuration executable, because it's a collection of information, and for it to be represented as or saved as entities that CCA can process on, we need to be doing parsing. So you select a parser, like we did in the case of the file parsing. We look for a parser and do it. So in this case, since it is a tabular data format, we have a tabular data parser, and which allows us to provide information as to how to parse that information. So the details of which we can get into, which is also available in the Blueprint Development Guide, how to use the tabular data parser to parse the information. So how the different options, the parser options, could be used. So this is how we go about it. When we do a script or a command in the configuration executable, you will have to be using a parser so that you can save the output of it in the server. Did that answer the question? If there is any more clarification required, please feel free to ask me.
He says, I need left the result on the server as evidence. I need left. Okay, got it.
No. Can you please come again?
It says, I need left the result on the server as evidence.
Could you type it in the chat?
Is he asking for an example of how that would actually work to write to it, or less details from the remote execution? I mean, when you're filtering it down.
He says, save the output in a file.
Left the result on the server as evidence. Left the result on the server as evidence.
And then he said, save the output in a file.
Maybe shall I go ahead and show how this works in this particular case? So if you see the output of it, probably it will be more clear. It will take a minute. I'll go ahead and show that, and probably that will be more clear. So in this case, we were looking at, sorry, excuse me. So we were looking at a tabular format. We want only the server name list. So what we are going to be doing is the column delimiter between the information that we want to catch here is a space or a tab. So that's what I'm going to be putting here. I'm going to type a tab and a space in this box, tab and space.
He followed up with, just use the tool to execute the script and then left the result in a file. He might mean leave the result in a file, but in a server.
So what he's asking is if there a capability for us to run a particular script and for it to take effect in the server and not store it in the CCA database, yes, that can be done. It depends on the script that we write. If we write a script which says copy, run this command and copy the output into this file, that's going to be happening. So it depends on how we write that script. So if I say here in this case, instead of CCA util.bat, so what I'm instructing here is run this, and whatever is the output of that, provide it to CCA server, and we'll do the parsing on that. If we don't want that to happen, if you do a redirection to a file, some temp.txt, so this is going to this script is going to be executed, and it is going to be available. The output will be available as part of temp.txt. So this is like how we write the script. Ideally, we should not be doing this in the configuration in executable section, but we could be doing it in macros. So macros is a place where we provide the capability to run anything. It could be a database query or a script. And we are not going to be capturing the output, do parsing and all that, but we're just going to be showing plain collection of information. But this is available only at runtime. So after I do the discovery, I can at runtime I'll have to execute this one-time operation kind. So this is not part of the discovery. So to answer the question, if any script that you write and you want the output of it to be available in some other file in that server to be left there, then we write the script in such a way where we redirect the output to that particular file. So there is no capability directly in CCA to, or there's no special capability required for that. Does that sound fine?
Okay, I think that answered it. Does anyone else have any other questions? If so, please enter them in the Q&A panel.
All right. I don't see any more questions. Oh, wait. Hold on. Go. Robbie asked a question here. Let's say we customize a blueprint to discover some additional info. Example, build version stored in a text file. Does this get stored in the CCA database?
The build version information is, we customize the blueprint to get the build information. So how we get, how has it been defined? Has it been defined using so if we see, right, whatever we see in the blueprint is a get operation. So we query and get the database output. We read the file, we parse the file and get that information. We don't modify anything directly as part of discovery. That is some other functionality. So we could do it as part of remediation, or where we can make modifications to the file. But if we as part of the blueprint, when we add a particular component parameter or a file, what we are looking for there is to get some information and store it in CCA database. Now, if you would be wanting it to be, if you would want that to be making any changes to your environment, like in this case, you make change to the build version, so you could directly, we can run a script as part of macro, or we can. You'll have to be writing a script to do that. There is no other direct control where which is given by CCA as part of the discovery process, where we make changes to a particular file or registry. What we do is we see what is already there, and we focus on getting focused configuration information. and use that data that we have gathered later for any further operations like change management or to do rule compliance on the data that we have populated. But I'm not particularly sure if that answers your question, but if we have to be making changes to a file, then the file parsing or the managed file section or whatever we saw as part of the blueprint is not going to be doing that.
It's a quick follow-up question from Ravi. Okay, we're interested in creating a report to show build version info.
Okay. So yeah, that is possible, I believe. So you have to be defining the build version information in a blueprint. So if you're looking to do that for different applications, then you'll have to be doing it in different application blueprints, or you could create a custom blueprint where you define build versions of different applications in the same blueprint, like you say a BOXI build version, or you say, and you run, and if it could be achieved from a server through any of the modes that we already discussed, through a database or through a database query or through a remote, through a script or through a command or through a file or registry, we could capture that information. So it's all about if that build information, can we capture it through any of this route? If the answer for that question is yes, then yes, you can do that and create a report out of it. So unless we know what we are talking about and we look at that application and see, I can't directly provide an example whether build version could be done, but to answer it generically, I believe it is very much possible to do that.
Okay. Pablo had a follow-up. Do we have default blueprints for Teradata and Informix database? I don't recall Teradata from my list of things. Informix, I'm trying to recall, do we have Informix?
Yeah, I'm doing a quick check. I don't think we have.
Yeah, I knew Teradata wasn't there.
Teradata is not there, yes. We don't seem to be having for Informix as well.
Okay. So Pablo, what we do with this, if this is important to your business, we go to the community page and we put in ideas that you're interested in support for Teradata or Informix database. And say this is something I'd be interested in as an enhancement in the product as a future. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we close this out? I know we've gone over about 10 minutes here. All right. I just want to go ahead and say thank you for everyone for joining, for the questions, and hopefully this was helpful. And once we get this posted, it might be ideal to go back and listen to Shindra's example here. You know, take it as a tutorial. Oh, I want to go through, what did she say about doing this function or feature when we go through the blueprint. So I'd recommend coming back and listening to it a second time if you can, as soon as we get that posted to the community. Hopefully that'll be in the next 24 to 48 hours. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody. Sindra, can you pass me back the ball real quick? And then I'll close this out really quickly. All right. Oh, you haven't passed it back. Make me presenter again. Thank you. Okay, so what I want to do is just close this out and let you know that today we're going to workshop how to customize an out-of-box blueprint. We use the example of Service Desk. We also want to focus on our next workshop, and we're going to determine that time period probably in October. We want to discuss about what is compliance rules, because we're taking from what you've done with a blueprint, and what do we do next? Shall we look at a compliance rule? How can we maintain compliance? So how do we utilize compliance rules with blueprints? But also, I hope that you'll take an opportunity to go to the automation community page. If there's a workshop, and I'll post something, I may post something, is there something that you would like us to go over as we continue these workshops? Is there specific things that may be of interest for the community? But my next workshop that we want to put together, we're going to talk about compliance rules. So we've done introduction to blueprints. We've gone through how do I customize a blueprint. And next, what do we do with that blueprint once we have completed that? Now we've discovered different component information. Where do we go from there? And I believe the next part is for us to talk about compliance rules. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's joined. I appreciate your time, and hopefully this was of value to you. And if you have any questions, feel free to post it on the automation community. I look on that every day, multiple times. Also, if you're not aware, we have the CCA cookbook, which is basically a flip book, which if you have your iPad or if you're running Firefox, Chrome, it's ideal to go through there. There's a lot of nice caveats that can be helpful in your day-to-day activities. So this is really where I look for our customers really get some best practices going through the cookbook. So hopefully that will help you out. And again, I thank you for your time and your attention here. So with that, we can go ahead and close this out.